All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest edition of the Payton Doyle Show. I'm Payton Doyle, host of the Payton Doyle Show. I hope you all are having a fantastic day today. And I'm back. And I have a great show ready for all of you today. And this is also the first live show that I'm hosting here on YouTube. This is the new norm now, guys. This is always something that I've wanted to do. I wanted to convert this podcast into a live show for a long time now, and I've finally done it. This recording will also be posted on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and on the YouTube channel after the conclusion of the show. So if you missed anything or you couldn't make it here at 3 p.m. right now, you're still going to be able to view it later on. But while I have made my return today, someone else may not be returning to their team anytime soon. Aaron Rodgers has reportedly told his teammates that he does not plan on returning to the Packers. Apparently, this stems from a contract dispute where apparently the Packers wanted to restructure Rodgers' deal and Rodgers wants an extension. There's now even reports saying that retirement is on the table for the reigning league MVP. Yes, it really is just as crazy as it sounds. The reigning league MVP is contemplating retirement and might not play for the same team next season. This has not happened since Jim Brown won league MVP in 1965 and then retired the next season to go be an actor in Hollywood. That's how long it's been, since 1965, since anything like this has happened. Now, there's two sides to this situation. There's people saying that the Packers have disrespected Aaron Rodgers for a long time now, and that they never were going to put a great team around him, and basically saying that they wasted his career away. Then, the other side is basically saying that Aaron Rodgers had plenty of weapons throughout his career, and that it's not the organization's fault that Rodgers has only made one Super Bowl. I'm here to tell you guys that both of these points are valid, to an extent. Aaron Rodgers has every right to be upset with the Green Bay Packers. This was all a looming disaster ever since the Packers traded up to draft Jordan Love in last year's draft. I don't care what anyone says. That was a terrible decision. All-time terrible decision to trade up and draft Jordan Love. The fact that the Packers traded up for Jordan Love and still reached for a guy who threw 17 interceptions in his senior season in college, while they could have drafted a player of need that might have put them over the top in the NFC last year, is absurd. I still can't get over it. I still can't believe that it happened. Then you add the fact that they didn't even let Aaron Rodgers know that they were trading up to draft his future replacement in the first round. That makes it even more absurd. Here's an interesting bit of information just to put it all into perspective how crazy the Packers really are for doing that. Their biggest rival, the Chicago Bears, texted Andy Dalton to let him know that the team was going to trade up to draft Justin Fields in the first round of this year's draft. Andy Dalton has yet to play a single down of football as a Chicago Bear. Hell, I'd even bet that Andy Dalton hasn't even put on a Chicago Bears jersey yet. The Bears still had the courtesy to let him know that they were going to draft another quarterback in the first round. The Packers didn't let the best player in their franchise's history know that they were trading up for his future replacement. That just says a lot right there. That's so incredibly disrespectful to the man. You should have just let him know. Just send him a text, say, hey, we're drafting Jordan Love in the first round. We're going to add quarterback competition. That doesn't mean they had to listen to Rodgers. They just had to acknowledge, they had to let him know, hey, we're going to draft Jordan Love. But they didn't do that. That's a sign of a bad organization. Then Aaron Rodgers goes out and wins league MVP. And instead of offering him an extension, because it's obvious he can still play football at an extremely high level, you ask him to restructure? All because it doesn't fit your timeline? You know, there were reports that Aaron Rodgers would make fun of the Packers GM Brian Gutekunst by calling him Jerry Krause. But it really is Jerry Krause-esque what he is doing. You have the MVP of the league, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Why wouldn't you try to go all in and try to win another ring or two with him before he retires? Nope. They want to go all in on their third string quarterback who threw more interceptions in his senior year of college than Aaron Rodgers has in the past 4 years of his NFL career. I personally believe that the Packers have disrespected Aaron Rodgers for years. The feud dates back much further than the drafting of Jordan Love. This all started after Mike McCarthy was fired. You would think that you would ask your starting quarterback, your future Hall of Fame quarterback, you would ask his input on who the next coach should be, right? Well, no, not if you're the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers reportedly had no input on the hiring of Matt LaFleur that offseason. Now, with that being said, let's not sit here and act like the Packers offense was equipped with chumps for the past 16 years. Rodgers has had Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, and Randall Cobb all in their primes. The running game has been a little bit shaky outside of 3 pretty solid seasons with Eddie Lacy before he became fat, and now Aaron Jones. The reason why Rodgers is upset is not because of the weapons around him. I don't think that's why Rodgers is upset at all. Rodgers is upset that the organization has never seemed to try and buy in to winning a Super Bowl with him right now. He's 38. And you even saw it when Tom Brady left the Patriots. Bill Belichick even said, we cashed in. We went all in on trying to win as many Super Bowls as we could before Tom Brady left. And it worked. They got one 2 years before he left. I think the Packers should be doing the same thing. He's 38. Cash in. He's still playing at a high level. Go all in on a Super Bowl. But they won't do that because they're too busy worried about the future. And I think it's also, he's upset with the fact that they're trying to push him out. He's the league MVP. And they're still trying to say, okay, but we still are looking more towards the future rather than right now. And the future isn't you. That's why Aaron Rodgers is upset. And plus, if Jordan Love could play, the Packers would have traded Aaron Rodgers a long time ago. The Packers know that Jordan Love can't play, and it frustrates Aaron Rodgers that now he's being pushed out of town for a quarterback who can't play. But now the question is, will Aaron Rodgers get traded? I feel like the answer to that question, we need to answer this question first. How much is the reigning league MVP, who's also a future Hall of Famer, worth? Let's look at the 2 main teams that are rumored to want Aaron Rodgers. The Broncos and the Raiders, right? One, the problem is that their rosters, as they are right now, are not marginally better than Green Bay's roster. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers will be upgrading that much. Then number 2, how much can these teams afford to give up? They probably will have to give up at least 3 first-round picks and 2 starting players. 3 first-round picks and 2 starting players for 2 teams that weren't over 500 last year. I feel like that's something these teams can't afford to do. Plus, you have to think, if you're going to cash in your future, right, for a 37-year-old quarterback, you better be in position to win a championship within the next 3 years. This isn't Deshaun Watson we're talking about here, where you are going to still get a decade plus of elite level football. We are talking about, maybe 5 good years left of Aaron Rodgers, more likely 3 good years left of Aaron Rodgers. I don't see Aaron Rodgers getting traded until we know if he's going to hold out. If the retirement reports are true, and Rodgers does indeed retire and does not report to the team, then I say he gets traded. Because then his value will inevitably go down. If he's not showing up to the team, you're going to have to trade him. You don't want to pay him all this money for him to be sitting on your bench and doing nothing. He'll still be worth a lot on the trade market, but maybe for more of a reasonable price. But I don't think Rodgers will hold out. I know he has the Jeopardy gig and stuff, but I think Rodgers wants to play football. Obviously, we all need to let this play out. But personally, I believe that Aaron Rodgers will be playing in a Green Bay uniform for at least next season. In the next few minutes, I'll be bringing on Justin Marville, the lead sports analyst at This Just In Sports Show, to talk more about his beloved Green Bay Packers and the situation with Aaron Rodgers. So stick around for that. That's going to be a great conversation. Always love talking with Justin. But first, before I do, so much of a young quarterback's success depends on what situation they were drafted into. If a quarterback is drafted into a bad situation that switches coaches every year, their NFL life is probably going to be very difficult. If a quarterback is drafted into a good situation with a stable organization, they probably will have success. Look at Patrick Mahomes. There were 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round of this year's draft, and I ranked them based off of the situation that they were drafted into. Now, at number 1, this one was easy for me. That's Trey Lance. The 49ers are 2 years removed from having a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. The 49ers check all the boxes you need for a young quarterback to develop: good coaching, a top 10 defense when healthy, a top 10 offensive line, and a great running game. Also, as a young quarterback, it helps to have arguably the best tight end in the entire league in George Kittle, who can also block. Plus, there's no real pressure on Trey Lance to be great immediately. He can take a year or half a year and sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo and learn Kyle Shanahan's offense. I said before the draft that there's 2 quarterbacks in this draft that will for sure be at least a Pro Bowl level quarterback in the NFL. That would be Trevor Lawrence and whoever gets drafted to San Francisco. And now that's Trey Lance. I think he's in a great position to succeed in the NFL. Now at number 2, I have Justin Fields. Again, a situation where there isn't a ton of pressure on him to perform immediately. People don't seem to realize the Bears made the playoffs last year with Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback. This is a defense that is easily top 10 in the league when healthy. The offensive line is somewhat middle of the pack, but I'm not too worried about that because of Justin Fields' athletic ability. That can help cover up a mediocre offensive line. We see that with Russell Wilson. He's able to escape the pocket. Same thing with Deshaun Watson. They've never had good offensive lines since they've entered the league, but they've been able to manage and still find ways to be successful because of their mobility. But with that defense and David Montgomery, who really broke out towards the second half of last season, I think that Justin Fields is in a good spot where he can get playoff experience pretty quickly. Plus, look at the state of the NFC North. The Packers might be moving on from Aaron Rodgers. If not this year, then definitely sometime soon. The Vikings are on the decline. Who knows? They might move on from Kirk Cousins soon after drafting Kellen Mond in the middle rounds of this year's draft. Then, the Lions. Well, they're the Lions. Do I really even need to explain? They're terrible. They're always terrible. They always will be terrible. I'm not too worried about Dan Campbell biting off kneecaps or anything. Doesn't worry me. I don't think it worries the rest of the AFC North. Justin Fields and the Bears, they look like they're in a good spot for the future in the NFC North. Now at number 3, I have Trevor Lawrence. Having Lawrence at third was almost entirely divisional based. The AFC South has now beaten the NFC East for the worst division in football, in my opinion. I personally believe that the Titans are going to regress just a little bit from the past few seasons. Their defense is below average, and they lost a lot of pieces. They also lost almost all of their wide receivers other than A.J. Brown. So there's going to be a lot of adjustments that need to be made in Tennessee. We don't know how they're going to be. Then you have the Colts, who might be good, but they also might be terrible because they traded for the worst quarterback in the league last year statistically in Carson Wentz. Then you have the Texans, who are literally a dumpster fire. Like, they actually might become the first team to go 0-17 this season if Deshaun Watson doesn't play. So that's 2 free wins for Trevor Lawrence right there against the Texans. Plus, I actually think Jacksonville does have a decent team around Trevor. The offensive line is certainly suspect, don't get me wrong, but aside from that, James Robinson and Travis Etienne should be a dynamic pairing in the backfield. And then at receiver, they have DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault, who are both promising and talented young wide receivers. And the Jaguars also signed Marvin Jones Jr. from Detroit, who can contribute as a number 3 option as well. I think Trevor Lawrence is actually in not such a bad situation in Jacksonville as it might seem. Yes, they were 1-15 last year. Does it matter? I don't think so. I think he can turn it around quickly. We saw Baker Mayfield came into Cleveland after going 0-16. Then they went, I believe it was 6-9-1 that same season, or 7-8-1, my bad, that same season in Baker's rookie year. I think Trevor Lawrence can turn the Jaguars around quickly. I think he's in a decent situation. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, you have a first-year head coach in Urban Meyer, so that's a big wild card there. But in terms of the weak division and a solid team around him, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to perform well in Jacksonville. Now, this might be a surprise here at number 4. I have Mac Jones going to the New England Patriots. Now, I get what you guys are saying. Payton, Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, and Mac Jones fits perfectly into his system. How could you say something that outrageous that New England isn't a good situation for a young quarterback like Mac Jones? 1, Bill Belichick is 69 years old. How much longer is he going to coach for? Romeo Crennel just became the oldest head coach in NFL history this year at 73 years old. The oldest coach in history. So somewhere down the line here, Mac Jones inevitably will have to go through a coaching change, and that's never good on young quarterbacks to have to go for. And then you're going to go from Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, to who knows. That's never good for a young quarterback. Then 2, the Patriots have to play the Dolphins and the Bills twice a year. 2 teams that are well coached and also are better than the Patriots. I get that the Patriots made a lot of offseason acquisitions. But who did they really get that's going to change the game for them? Who's going to change the game for the Patriots that they got this year's offseason? Their receivers upgraded from like a D- group to a C group. I mean, you got Nelson Aguilar, who's not a number 1 option. Same thing with Kendrick Bourne. And, you know, the receivers are not that great. Then I know they got the tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith from Tennessee. That should be a nice 2 tight end set. But is it really that dangerous? Are opposing teams really fearing Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith with Cam Newton and possibly Mac Jones at quarterback? I don't think they're fearing that. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think anyone's fearing it. So I think Mac Jones inherited a rough situation in New England. So now let's continue to number 5, the worst situation you could have possibly been drafted into, Zach Wilson. This one was easy too. There was 2 very easy decisions on this list, and that was number 1 and number 5. Zach Wilson is in the worst situation out of the first-round quarterbacks. If there was going to be a bust out of these 5, it's going to be Zach Wilson. First of all, yes, I know they drafted Elijah Vera Tucker. That's very nice of them. And Elijah Moore, great and wonderful. Okay, I know they're trying to help him out. And yes, I'm aware of Mekhi Becton, who they drafted in last year's first round. I completely understand. But let's not get it twisted. That offensive line is nowhere near complete. The right side of that offensive line is not much to be proud of at all. Then that wide receiver group is not great at all as well. Corey Davis is always a disappointment, and he's not a number 1 option. Jamison Crowder isn't a number 1 option. And Elijah Moore is a huge question mark as a rookie. Then, on top of all of that, you have a rookie head coach and Robert Saleh. We have no idea how he's going to be as a head coach. He was a great defensive coordinator, no doubt about it. A guy who eats, sleeps, and craps football. We all know that. But how is he going to be as a head coach? We don't know is the answer to that. We don't know. Also, even if Robert Saleh is a good head coach, he's going to be facing Brian Flores twice a year, Sean McDermott twice a year, and also Bill Belichick twice a year. So even if Robert Saleh is a good coach, that's 6 times a year he's going to be outcoached. Plus, you think that Bill Belichick and Brian Flores are going to be worried about, they're going to want to get to Zach Wilson. 2 defensive head coaches are going to want to get at Zach Wilson defensively. He's going to be seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold was. Then the Jets simply can't keep up with the offensive firepower of the Buffalo Bills. So divisionally, they're screwed. They're outcoached. Last year during the whole draft process, I said that a young quarterback needs three things in the NFL to succeed. First is a good offensive line to keep them protected. Secondly, they need a reliable running game. And finally, they need a stable organization. Their offensive line is young and was one of the worst in the league last year and has been for many years. Their best running backs are LaMichael Pirine, Tevin Coleman, and a running back who's a rookie who was a backup in college. And for their organization, they literally have never been stable for their entire existence. So yeah, I think Zach Wilson is kind of screwed in New York. And I think that he has the highest chance to be a bust out of all the first-round quarterbacks in this year's draft. I'm not high on Zach Wilson. Personally, he reminds me a lot of Drew Lock. He doesn't look that big. He's very small. I don't know if he's ready for the NFL yet. Plus, at BYU, he played 5 games against teams that had 10-plus wins in his career at BYU. In those 5 games, he's 0-5 and has thrown 1 touchdown to 7 interceptions against teams with 10-plus wins. So when he's facing the best of the best competition, he's fallen short. Now, how is that going to be in the NFL when you're playing great teams every single week? I don't see how it's going to work. People say Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, because he can do crazy off-platform throws. So can Drew Lock. I see more of Drew Lock and Zach Wilson than I do of Mahomes and Rodgers. Now, it's time to bring on Justin Marville, but he has not joined yet. So we're going to have to find something else to talk about here until he does join, and then I get to bring him on. Hopefully he'll be on shortly. The NFL schedule was released on Wednesday. Very exciting day. Extremely exciting day. I think the Browns, I love the Browns, so I love the Browns. So I was really, really waiting to see what the Browns were going to be facing. I think the Browns are in good position to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Here's their schedule. I'll read it to you right now. I'm going to pull it up. We're winging it right now. Oh, Justin is here. Justin is here. Awesome. I'm going to add him right now. Scrap that. I was just talking about random stuff. Here he is. Justin, how you doing, man?
I am so sorry to be late, but it's great to hop on. This is your first live show, right?
Yes, my first live show, man.
I can tell by the suit and tie.
This is my thing, man. I've been doing this for the past year. You know that.
I'm joking, man. Where's the mood lighting?
It's right here, man. You don't see it?
No, I actually don't.
Oh, well, it's the same thing as it's always been, but we're here in the new studio, the new setup. I'm back. And I'm glad to have you on, man, because I wanted to talk to you about the Packers. I'm sure you're sick of it by now because you've been talking about this all week. But
you get used to it when you're known for wearing a Packers jersey on everyone's show. So that comes with territory.
That's true. You wore the Packers jersey the last time you were on the show. It's obvious though that Aaron Rodgers is upset with the Packers in some way, right? If he wasn't, right? Exactly. If he wasn't, he would have came out and said, look, this is all just an overreaction. I want to be a Green Bay Packer. But he hasn't done that. He just signed an extension to do more Jeopardy. So who is more to blame in the relationship between the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, in your opinion?
So, sorry, this answer is going to be very, very long-winded. But it isn't Aaron, and I'm not telling you he is not blameless. If people on the outside really want to understand the situation a lot better, there's a guy, Andrew Brandt. He does a lot of work for Sports Illustrated. He is a former executive within the Packers front office, and he was in the midst of when we were going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. He was there when we drafted him. So he was explaining the culture, and part of it, as a lot of people may not know, is that the Packers organization does not have an owner. The team is actually owned by the town. So the hierarchy is basically we have a president/CEO, a board of directors, and a general manager. And those executives tend to give away to the general manager as it pertains to football situations. So that would be Brian Gutekunst, who is the general manager right now. Gutekunst, as part of that Packers culture, he's been raised in it. So he comes from the Ted Thompson tree. He's the guy who drafted Aaron Rodgers. And Ted Thompson is known very well as a great talent evaluator. The problem is he's a poor communicator. So Brian Gutekunst came up through that culture. And now you're seeing a situation where his communication skills are not great. In that, you've heard Aaron Rodgers' camp say they talked about when they loved Jake Kumaro, the undrafted wide receiver, and then the next day or so, the Packers front office released him. And now you heard him mention that it wasn't so much the drafting of Jordan Love is what pissed off Aaron Rodgers more so than the front office inability to tell him that they were drafting Jordan Love, and so on and so forth. So you'd think I'm telling you right now that the problem is Brian Gutekunst. And I'm here to tell you, Payton, no. My time in the workforce has shown me you're not paid for the number of duties you have, more so than the level of accountability that you have. And I say all that to say I put the blame squarely on the shoulders of none other President, CEO Mark Murphy. No, I told you, yes, that they give away to the general manager. But when Mike McCarthy was fired, Mark Murphy came out publicly and said he is going to take more control of what's going on in the football side of the Packers. He publicly said this. And following that statement, apparently, whether it was him or Gutekunst, went directly to Rodgers and told him, when they bring in LaFleur, do not be the problem. If indeed Mark Murphy is saying that he wanted to take more control or assuming more control, then this is at your doorstep. All of this is on you. You can't sit down and watch a quarterback who previously said he wants to retire a Packer now come and say he is no longer playing another down in the organization, the only organization he has ever known. And he loves the fans, he loves the city. This is a guy who has, become a Packer true and true at heart. And the second and biggest misstep outside of drafting Jordan Love, the biggest issue is, the timeline basically a lot of people would not understand, Payton, was to move on from Aaron Rodgers in 2022. Like everything tells you that. Then, as we know, Aaron Rodgers has that MVP season. Instead of then extending him as you treat a 3-time MVP, they asked him, with no guaranteed money on his contract, they asked him to restructure instead of extend. Knowing there's no more money on his his contract, and basically you would have been asking him to help your salary cap for his predecessor. Not his successor. You're asking him basically to do you a favor so you can easily move on from him in 2022. So then, obviously, that's a straw in the camel's back. Aaron's vexed, he wants to leave. And no, after all of that, no, you're offering, or at least it's reported that they're offering him an extension, I think, in the region of $40 to $45 million per year, obviously making him one of the highest paid players in all of football. Like, you do that before. You don't wait till this situation gets here to do that. And so, Payton, that's why I put all the blame at the Packers front office, particularly President Mark Murphy.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that completely. I think that the front office has, like you said, with the restructure thing, that was the last straw, right? I mean, you're going to come and tell the league MVP, the reigning league MVP, to take less money and that you still want to move on from him. That's incredible to me, right? And we all saw that the rumor that Aaron Rodgers was jokingly calling Gutekunst Jerry Krause in the group chat. I think that is a reasonable comparison, because you would think that with an MVP, you would want to cash out and go all in on a Super Bowl with a 38-year-old quarterback who's the league MVP. And it just doesn't seem that they're willing to do that. It's like they want to move on right now and get to the future right now.
To be fair, this 2-year window was basically their way of cashing out or going all in. Like, the Packers organization is never one that is going to bring in a lot of outside free agents. That's just not the history of the Packers. Mm-hmm. That's not how they do things. And they will tell you their own free agents are free agents as well. So if you've heard reports, they will tell you, well, we did sign the highest paid left tackle in all of football. It just so happens the highest paid or the best left tackle in all of football happens to be our own. They will tell you they sign a top 10 running back. They will just tell you he just happens to be one of our own players. So that's what the Packers do. They value their own free agents more so than outside free agents. And as I said, the reason you're seeing the organization scramble, I think the timeline was always these 2 years being 2021 to 2020, 2020 to 21 season and this current coming season. They were treating it as we're going to win a championship these 2 years, and then we're going to move on to Jordan Love. I think that's what you're seeing right now. And Aaron Rodgers is basically trying to control his own timeline, saying, no, that's your timeline. My timeline is I'm getting out of here right now.
Yeah. So a team, though, that is bringing outside free agents in a lot is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Everything always goes back to Tom Brady in the NFL, and we all saw what he did last season, leaving a team in New England that was a pretty good team and a pretty good situation to go to a team with a lot of firepower, and he won the Super Bowl in his first season with the team. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is looking at that and saying, hey, maybe I could do the same thing?
Of course he's looking at it. And what made it worse is that Tom won in his first year doing that. I think it's not more so of Aaron looking at Tom winning, more so than the control that Tom was given in his first year. And I think it's like he feels disrespected being in an organization for 16 years, a 3-time MVP, a Super Bowl MVP, brought back, the title because the Lombardi Trophy really does belong in Green Bay. That's the name of our head coach, and we won the first 2 Super Bowls. So that's where, Green Bay Packers will say that's where it belongs. So him being, bringing the franchise back to relevance, he's telling himself after 16 years he should have a level of control, which he's not being given. Again, in that article, Andrew Brandt talks about that's not the Packers culture. They will never go to a player to ask him what's his feeling. And when you see on the other side, Tom goes into the organization for his first year, tells them, we're going to bring Rob Gronkowski out of retirement. We're going to bring Antonio Brown here despite all of his legal issues. And then you see also he has commanded the offense. Brian Leftwich and I want to say Bruce Arians, they're no scrubs when it comes to offense. These guys know offense. And then time and time again, you see them giving way to Tom Brady. Look no further than the last play of the first half against us in the NFC Championship game. It was Tom who went over to Bruce Arians in the huddle and said, hold on, call timeout. I'm going to go back on the field and I'm going to take a shot at it. And to me, that's the one play that decides this entire NFC title game. And it just so happens Aaron is on the other side of the field seeing this and then realizing I don't have this control. And I see a rookie a second-year head coach take me off the field on 4th and goal to kick a field goal. I don't even have this sort of cachet within my own organization after 16 years. And here is Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay after 1. He's telling them what players to run, what players to bring in. Yeah, that's what Aaron Rodgers wants.
Yeah, that certainly must be frustrating to see. And you could see Aaron Rodgers was visibly upset at that call to kick the field goal rather than go for it on 4th and goal in the NFC Championship game. So that might even be something that plays into this, because he said in the press conference afterwards, after that game, that his future was uncertain with the Packers. And that was kind of the really big start to this whole situation that we're in right now. But if Aaron Rodgers is traded, where will he be traded, and how much is it going to cost to trade a future Hall of Fame quarterback and the reigning league MVP?
So I've been going back and forth in this, and I'm not the best with trade scenarios. I'll start with your second question. It has to be at least 3 first-rounders. And the reason I say that, yeah, he's 37, but this is a 3-time MVP, as well as a Super Bowl MVP, who has all these records in terms of, passing efficiency, not turning over the football. The reason I say you have to start at 3 first-rounders, look no further than when the Bears made a run at Russell Wilson. They offered 3 first-rounders, and I think 2 third-rounders and 2 starters. And Seattle still turned that down. Now, as great as Russell Wilson is, and he's significantly younger than Aaron Rodgers, He has no regular season MVPs as far as I remember. And I don't even think he has a Super Bowl MVP in the year that the Seattle Seahawks won. So when you look at the cachet that Aaron Rodgers has behind him, I think if you're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers will ask for nothing less than 3 first-rounders. So then to double back to your first question, I think you have to buy into all the rumors that say it's Denver Broncos. And the reason being, again, they're the ones who have that draft capital first. And then it also makes sense from what they did in this draft, because when you look through their draft process, they were drafting like they believe they are on the cusp of a Super Bowl instead of a team that is looking to rebuild with a young quarterback. I say that to say they were at number 9, if memory serves me correct, Payton.
Yes, they're number 9.
They passed up on Justin Fields and Matt Jones to take a corner in Justin Fields. In Patrick Surtain, sorry.
Yeah.
And that was after they aggressively went after a former Bears cornerback in free agency. So it didn't make sense until they stopped and thought, well, hold on. What do the Packers need more than anything else? A starting corner to pair with Jair Alexander. And that fits Patrick Surtain. So it tells me that the Denver Broncos believe that they are getting Aaron Rodgers. So let's draft Patrick Surtain as one of those 3 first-rounders that we'll send to Green Bay, knowing that that's the guy that they're going to want. Because make no mistake, you're seeing teams no longer want veteran players or even young players because those players come with contracts. And I'll get into this later on. The Packers' salary cap situation in 2022 is dreadful. I think they're like minus $32 million in the hole. So they're not going to be able to take on a Drew Lock or another quarterback, a Teddy Bridgewater, or any other veteran player for that matter. It is all about draft compensation and probably Patrick Surtain. So the roundabout way of answering your question, Payton, is going to be Denver, probably Patrick Surtain and 2 other first-round picks, and probably another couple of third or second rounders.
I feel like Denver is definitely the leader in a trade scenario with Aaron Rodgers, but do you think that Denver has enough to give up? And even when they do give up that much, if that trade scenario happens that you just mentioned right there, do you think that Denver is even that much better than Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers?
No, that's the thing, right? And I'm not saying this as a Packer fan because you know me, I am not a willful Packer fan or the biggest optimist. But if Aaron Rodgers is true to himself, the team that gives him the best case scenario to win right away, as in this season coming, is his own Green Bay Packers, unless, another team he goes to, like, I don't know, San Francisco 49ers doesn't have to give up a lot. And they just gave up their draft capital to move all the way up to draft Trey Lance. So, and again, I told you the Packers are not going to want back players, especially when you see the cap scenario in 2022. And furthermore, they have to resign Devontae Adams, and Jair Alexander is going to be coming up for a new contract in 2022. So they're not going to want veteran players to take on their contracts. It comes down to who has the most draft capital. And you may not have heard me say this, but my favorite line is, draft picks are only valuable until you have to use them to draft players. The moment that you use a draft pick on a player, that pick is losing value by the day. And I think it's draft capital that the Packers want. So that's why I think Denver is the automatic front runner. You give him, 2 first-rounders and Patrick Surtain, so you can say Patrick Surtain's a first-round player. And I think that's where the conversation starts. But if we're truthful, as you pointed out, the running backs case in Green Bay is obviously better than in Denver. I mean, Aaron Jones is better than anyone in Denver's backfield. They don't have a player of Devontae Adams' skill set. They have a defense maybe that's built to win now, but you win. And then you look at the Packers' offensive line. Whenever David Bakhtiari comes back, they have a Pro Bowler in left guard, Elton Jenkins. This team is built to win right now, and I've not even mentioned Zadarius Smith, who is arguably one of the most underrated defenders in all of football. This team is built to win right now. I can't say that you put him in division in the AFC West with none other than the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and that wins. You're not even to come out your division with the best record. So the Packers right now still give Aaron Rodgers his best ability or his best chance at winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's a topic that I was touching on before you came on the show. I said I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay is gonna help his success. I think right now his best situation is to stay in Green Bay for as long as he can, because I don't think Denver, after they give up all that, are going to be contenders with him. I don't think that Vegas, after they give up all that, are going to be contenders with him. I think he's better off staying in Green Bay for at least this season. But let's say we get to training camp, right? And we get to preseason and Aaron Rodgers still hasn't been traded and he still hasn't is he going to report to the team? No. Will Aaron Rodgers report to the team, or is he holding out?
He is. You have to understand, and I can say this because I have seen his entire career, and I think I kind of understand the human being. If there is one person I could tell you of all the players in the NFL that would dig in and not report, it is Aaron Rodgers. It is that dude. You have to understand where he came from. He's not a poor guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he holds on to things. So let's go back to his time from high school. He got no major Division I offers, so he had to go to community college. I think it's Butte Community College. The only reason he got to Division I college at Cal is that his coach or somebody was coming to scout the tight end at where he was, and they just happened to see Aaron Rodgers. So, and he's never let that go, to the point, Payton, if you ever realize, I think he's changed it now. But before, he never used to mention Cal as the college that he came from. It was always his community college up until a couple of years ago, and he got over that part. He's never gotten over the fact that he slid all the way to 24, although he was graded as the best quarterback coming out of the 2005 draft class. Alex Smith, as we all know, was a guy who was drafted by the 49ers. And that stung Aaron Rodgers because the 49ers are his hometown team growing up. He loved the 49ers and Joe Montana and Steve Young. So that pained him. He's never, ever let that go. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, and this is not me, no, this is not coming from me, his brother has been on, I want to say, The Bachelor, and I think there's some reports with his mother. And both of them have hinted that Aaron Rodgers does not have a relationship with his immediate family. So I say all of that to say, Payton, if there is one guy who is going to stick to his guns, it is Aaron Rodgers. So even if he's not traded by training camp and he starts to lose money by holding out, Aaron Rodgers is going to hold out. And I'll add this little nugget that a lot of people don't know and may not remember. Carson Palmer, in his time at the Cincinnati Bengals, forced his way out by retiring for a year before he ultimately forced his way, I think, to the Raiders. The player agent that Carson Palmer had then is the same player agent that Aaron Rodgers has now. So you can take that with a grain of salt for whatever it's worth.
No, I definitely say that's something to consider when we're talking about this here. But could you imagine if Aaron Rodgers held out, did not return to the team, said he stuck to his guns, he's not coming back to the Packers? That would be, I mean, some of the biggest news in sports, like, ever. That's probably the biggest name to ever hold out if it does happen. So it's certainly going to be interesting come training camp time, come preseason, to see what happens with that. But I just want to know your final answer. Will Aaron Rodgers play another snap in a Green Bay Packers uniform?
I know you didn't bring me on to hear this. Payton, I've been going back and forth, and I no longer know. Up to Monday, I had a show on this, and I said he's going to come back. And the reason I think so is because the rumors are the Packers organization offered him a contract extension in the range of $40 to $45 million per year. And that is a lot of money, Payton, to turn down. Like, it's easy to say you're being disrespected, but when you see that money, to hell with the disrespect. Take that $40 to $45 million per year contract. And I think it's a multi-year extension. And if that's fully guaranteed, Payton, wow. I don't know the athlete that can turn that down. So up to Monday's show, and I'm sure you would have seen it, I said, I believe a punter's chance he returns. The reason now I am again uncertain is because we're hearing rumors or reports that the Packers are upset that teams have been interfering or talking to Aaron Rodgers without their permission. And if indeed this is the case, and Aaron Rodgers is dug in about not returning, then that tells me Denver or whoever he's talking to has given him that same offer. That's what probably is on the table. And now there are further reports saying that Aaron Rodgers has reached out to unnamed players to join him in unnamed destinations. This sounds like a guy that is dug right in. And yeah, I don't know if I'll say this, Payton, for the purpose of your show and a hot take. If Denver is offering that same contract status, then I say he does not return to the Green Bay Packers.
Well, there you go. Aaron Rodgers. I personally think Aaron Rodgers is going to play at least one more year in Green Bay. I think he's going to be playing in a Green Bay Packers uniform next season. I think this is all going to settle down, much like the Russell Wilson talks settled down pretty quickly. But I think this is definitely more real than those Russell Wilson talks were. But I think this is all going to settle down come training camp. Rodgers is going to come back. We're going to be like, oh my goodness, we were freaking out for no reason. And the Packers are going to be losing in the NFC Championship game again.
Ouch. I'll tell you, Payton, I would believe you. But again, as I mentioned, at 37 years old, he still does not have a relationship with his immediate family.
Yeah.
37 years old, he has not forgotten what happened in the 2005 draft. And he has not forgotten that Cal or any other major Division I program did not give him a scholarship offer. Trust and believe he's not forgetting what Brian Gutekunst has done to him these last couple of years.
That is true. But like you said, $45 million could give you amnesia like that. So, so I'm sure it's hard to turn down. But Justin, before you go, could you tell everyone watching like what you do and where they can find you?
Oh, I do exactly what you're doing here. We host a live show, not a podcast per se, but we go live on Mondays at 8 p.m. on YouTube. So just type in hashtag #ThisJustin and you're sure to find us. We are not a podcast. It says you're not going to find us on, audio only stuff. So you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram posting every day. We're even on LinkedIn, Facebook. And on Thursdays, as you would know, Payton, because you've been on that show, we go live with What Off Season Pod on Instagram Live. So that's Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern as well. But yeah, and this coming week, we're going to touch, because as I'm quite sure you're aware, Payton, the NBA playoffs are about to start. And I think we're going to get the juiciest play-in tournament ever, because I think the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors are going to face off in that first playing game. Steph Curry and LeBron James, what could you ask for? So Monday night, you can come in on 8 o'clock on YouTube Live. Hashtag #ThisJustin. Don't forget the hashtag. And find us on YouTube.
All right, Justin, thank you for coming on. I'm going to make sure to check him out. He's really good at what he does. I've been on his show multiple times, on his Monday night show, the Thursday night live show. I do a lot working with him. He's a really great guy. He's really great at what he does. I'll have the link to his YouTube in the description, so please go and subscribe to him. But Justin, thank you again for coming on, my man.
I'm hoping that you're doing this every week, because I love the look of the show, and you know me, because I don't have to do any post-editing. I love live shows, so you're going to find out that this is really easy.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm certainly liking the way this is going right now, so we'll see how it goes. But thank you for coming on, man.
Always.
Real great guy. I always love working with Justin. I had him on the last time I made an episode. He's a really great guy. So make sure go check him out. He does a lot of great stuff with his sports show and his team there. They're really doing great things. But before I wrap up the show, I have one more small segment for you guys. Listen, I love the NFL draft because everything about the draft is so unpredictable. A lot of us think we can predict the whole thing, but everyone is almost completely wrong every year because of how many surprises there are. So I brought you guys my top 3 biggest surprises from this year's draft. Now, obviously, the one big obvious one was the Raiders drafting Alex Leatherwood at 17th overall. That was a major reach when there were still plenty of highly graded offensive linemen on the board, such as Christian Darrisaw. But I'm going to leave that pick off as an honorable mention because John Gruden and Mike Mayock are weird when it comes to drafting. They drafted Cleveland Farrell a few years back. They really reached for him. So that doesn't surprise me very much that they're reaching for a player that a lot of people were sleeping on. They're very strange when it comes to drafting. So I'm going to leave that off. But here's the list right here. Starting off, I have the Jaguars drafting Travis Etienne in the first round at 25th overall. Personally, I feel like James Robinson had an extremely promising rookie year. He was tied 5th in the NFL in rushing yards with 1,070. He also had 7 rushing touchdowns to go along with it. He also was a decent receiver out of the backfield as well. I get that it's good for Trevor to have his college teammate with him and they have good chemistry, and it's also good to have more than one good running backs on the team. I get all of that. I just personally feel as if the Jaguars had so many needs other than running back going into the draft, and that's why the ETN pick surprised me just a little bit. It was just a little surprising that they would draft a guy at a position that was honestly probably one of the best positions going into the draft. Now, the second most surprising thing to me was Kadarius Toney getting drafted to the New York Giants at number 20 overall. I think it was a bit of a reach for a guy who really broke out this one season, and also he was drafted ahead of Rashad Bateman and many other talented receivers as well. Plus, the Giants desperately needed an offensive lineman in this draft. Last year, the Giants' offensive line was one of the worst in the NFL. They tied for the second most sacks allowed last year. They gave up 50 sacks. And in terms of sack percentage, so that means the amount of time sacked per dropback, they had the second highest sack percentage in the entire NFL. And they didn't draft a single offensive lineman in the entire draft, all 7 rounds. Probably their biggest need going into this year's draft. They didn't draft one offensive lineman. That's never good for a young quarterback in Daniel Jones, who desperately needs protection. Also, on top of all of that, they paid Kenny Golladay a crap ton of money to go be the number 1 wide receiver to pair alongside Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard. So then they reached for a wide receiver in the first round. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, the absolute biggest surprise in this year's draft was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah falling to the Cleveland Browns in the second round at pick number 52. This is a guy that I thought the Browns should draft at 26th overall with their first round pick. But he fell to them all the way at 52 because of concerns over a heart problem. But the doctors say he's healthy. He says he's healthy. So I think this is a great pick that can propel Cleveland into instant title contenders this season. This was the steal of the draft, hands down. The Browns drafting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at 52 overall was easily the steal of the draft. He was ranked in the top 25 prospects on plenty of draft boards, including my own. I had him ranked as the 18th overall prospect in this draft, and he fell all the way to 52. What a steal. Of course, the Browns, everything's going their way this year. This is the year. I couldn't go a full show without talking about the Cleveland Browns. JOK was the steal of the draft, and now the Browns with an upgraded defense look like serious Super Bowl contenders. So that's it. That's how I'm wrapping the show up. The Browns are contenders, whether you like it or not. Thank you all so much for watching and or listening. Please make sure to like, follow, or subscribe wherever you may be listening. Also, make sure to follow the show on social media at PD Sports. That is at PD Sports on Instagram and TikTok. I like the way this went this time around. This was my first time, so let me know in the comments how you guys liked it. I definitely want to come back next week and do the same thing. Hopefully things will run a little bit smoother next time. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and please make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.